We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down in my emotions right now.
Retain salad.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat, and I've got my favorite co-host,
Evan Reynolds, Revan Ev, coming right at you. I like how I'm your favorite. I am your only co-host. But I'm jacked about tonight's show.
Yeah, well, you may be jacked. I've got a bunch of coffee to keep me awake from all your ideas and rumor mills that you've been sharing with me late night, and I just got to pretend like I care and know what you're talking about. But we all know I don't know what I'm talking about, so you must know something.
Episode 21 tonight, and it's a special occasion tonight because something new has just happened. Give us an update.
Evan grew a beard right here, like a little hair came out. I'm just kidding. No. So we have partnered up with All Sports, All Plays, ASAP network online. It's been fantastic. They're a group out of the States. They been taking us on because they want an NHL analyst to be on and to share some of their sites. And they thought, after seeing our show, reviewing it and thinking, hey, who's that old guy and that handsome devil right over there? And they're like, we need to get these guys on the show. So we partnered up with them.
You really shouldn't call yourself old, but thank you for calling me handsome. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's exactly where that
was.
Hey,
just so everyone knows, this is an awesome partnership we're about to go into, and this is our first episode. So if you're joining us on the ASAP Sports Network, man, welcome. You're gonna love Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Tonight we're starting off just the two of us. Every once in a while, every second or third show, you're gonna find a guest. If you're not a part of ASAP's network and you're following on our Facebook at Two Guys in Hockey Talk or through our YouTube channel, know that ASAP, they provide great sports content. They got a variety of shows. This is what I like, Pavel. They don't shy away from any sport, and they aim to have something for everyone. If you want top
100%.
Stories in sports, you got to follow them. That's why they brought us on, man. We got top stories. Oh, I must mention, if you want to follow ASAP's Sports Network, you can follow them on all your media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and you can follow them on your TV channel through Roku.
Yeah. So we finally get to be on TV, which is a big deal. But it doesn't pay the big bucks yet. So I'm still waiting for that big Leonardo DiCaprio check, right? Whenever that comes in. But enough of that. We're excited to join. We're hoping that you guys can follow, like, subscribe, share. We've got a lot of content. And for all you viewers for ASAP, please check out our previous episodes. We've got a ton of content. No hockey is bad hockey. There's all good information. You may learn a thing or two. But there's a lot going on in the NHL. Evan, take us off. What's been happening?
Okay. Well, hey, before we hit the NHL, I want to backtrack to junior hockey. The best junior hockey in the world is not the – I know everyone wants to say, it's the World Juniors. That's a limited amount of players. The top teams in the WHL, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and the Ontario Hockey League of the CHL, plus a home team, which is this year, the St. John Sea Dogs, will be home to the Memorial Cup, the best of the best junior hockey in North America. And by the way, if you don't know who the St. John Sea Dogs are, they are the former junior team of Jonathan Huberdeau. Now, it's going to happen because of the pandemic. They are going to be hosting this event June 20th to 29th. It's going to be mostly be on Sportsnet. If you're going to be following, I'm not sure what coverage they might be arranging in the United States. So definitely check your local cable providers.
Yeah,
Exciting
that's
news.
exciting.
Okay.
There's some young players that come out of all those leagues
man.
to play in the NHL, and it's electrifying to watch them just because even though they make rookie-like mistakes, the game is fast. Like you think the NHL is fast. These guys are super fast. So I love seeing it.
Yeah, the best of the best, right? Your elites.
And they're trying to prove themselves because they're trying to get into the league. But yeah.
Exactly.
So we've got some news around.
Yeah, well, why don't you take us and head down south? So all of you Nevada fans are pumped today because Pavel's got great news if you haven't already heard.
Yeah, it's big news. Jack Eichel, the former captain of the Buffalo Sabres, now of the Vegas Golden Knights, is making his debut tonight versus Colorado Avalanche. It's exciting. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the TV, not only because Jack Eichel, in my opinion, and I think it's a good consensus around the NHL, is a top 10 to 15 player, if not center, in the NHL. He's electrifying. He's fast. He's dynamic. You know, he went second overall behind Connor McDavid in 2015. He's a really good guy. He can play. He had his, neck surgery, and people are going to be watching how he can take contact, how he's going to feel after that first body on body. Is he going to be okay, right? Because this will pave way, and he's kind of a pioneer in that sense, for the first NHL player to get this surgery, which we've discussed on previous episodes.
Disc replacement.
Disc replacement. Yeah. In order to be able to play. Now, we know that this has happened in the UFC, and people have been able to fight and continue to perform, which is also an intense sport. But I really believe that this will be really, really cool to watch. And unfortunately, Mark Stone will not be there because he has some back injuries. So he's been put on long-term injury reserve. Yeah. So the new Tampa Bay Golden Knights, Vegas Golden Knights are in play. So you're going to use the cap to how you want. Go ahead.
Well, hey, he wouldn't even be coming in tonight because they don't have the cap space to play him if Mark Stone had not gone on LTIR. So that's where, let the controversies begin. So if you're a Tampa fan, how do you feel about this? Is it kind of feel like the same that maybe everyone felt about you guys? How about Sean Fiery? What do you think, Sean, our buddy, our super fan? But no, honestly, I feel like this is like a Kucherov thing. It feels like the timing, is it just they always find ways to circumvent the cap, and the owners do nothing about it. So why care anymore? If your owner's not good enough to figure out how to do it with your GMs.
So let's be honest. If anyone goes on Cap Friendly, and they do an amazing job of breaking down all the contracts and everything and the bonuses, you look at most teams in the NHL, at least 10 or 11 are above the cap because they have some players on long-term injury reserve. So it's not like Vegas is the only one doing it. They're just more prominent because of the contract that Eichel and Mark Stone have, as was Kucherov out in, Tampa Bay. So, if it was a smaller contract, Edmonton, I'm looking at you with Oscar Klefbom, you have some others in other places, Toronto was notorious for that. They would throw around money left, right, and center. That's what happened for them to be able to fit under the cap with all those guys. And they made it work. You do what you got to do.
So are you saying that you think Klefbom could make it back for the playoffs? And not have to count against the cap?
Rumor mill is that he's not, but wouldn't it be a surprise? And can you imagine that blue line then for Edmonton? But you were going to mention something about rumblings happening in Vegas and Kelly McCrimmon, the GM, kind of speaking out.
Well, actually, before we do that, you're talking about Klefbom. Let's go to another player. Give us some quick thoughts here. Evander Kane. He's now made home right in Edmonton. What's the thoughts here with this player?
Well, he's played 8 games. He's got 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points. So he's getting up there to being almost close to a point per game. So he's about 80% right now. Like it's pretty solid for what he's been contributing, recently playing on the top line with McDavid and Yamamoto. He's made an impact. He had a little bit of a scruffle in Tuesday's game versus LA. He gave Brendan Lemieux a little bit of a face shot after the whistle and got a penalty for it. Lemieux maybe said some things to him. Who knows what was being said? As we all know, Lemieux has his own involvement when he allegedly, because we don't know for sure. Bit Brady Tkachuk a while back when they played the Ottawa Senators, and that was a bit of a bit of a chaotic thing, and I believe he got a suspension for that, if we recall. So it's definitely interesting. You know, he's making an impact physically. He's putting up points. He's doing what he needs to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Holland in the offseason decided to do something short term with Evander Kane. You know, how that's going to work and how they're going to fit it under the cap. Maybe he'll give Kelly McCrimmon and what's his name, Julian Breezeball a call just to see how to get under the cap.
Okay, hey, before we move on from there, I got to ask you, so Lemieux, when Evander Kane knocked him out with a Mike Tyson punch, by the way, with the referee between them, what would you give that performance of Lemieux? Man, I give him a 10 out of 9. I give him a 10 out of 9. In other words, he should never get more than a 9 at all for this, but I got to give him a 10 out of 9 because I've never saw a guy get hit in the head, but his knees buckle and he gets thrown backwards like he's a limp dog that has never walked before.
I think he could potentially win the Best Actor award, you know, out taking everyone else at the Oscars. So, or maybe it's Best Special Effects because it made it look like he just turned into a noodle. No, we love Brendan Lemieux.
Awesome.
He's a solid player. Definitely some funny antics from time to time, but he got a call out of it. I mean, LA couldn't perform and score. And to note on that, congratulations to Drew Doughty on 1,000 games played in the NHL. That is insane. He is a Stanley Cup champion twice, an Olympic winner, who he had a great interview with Elliot and Jeff Merrick about being late to the Olympics in Vancouver, slept in almost. And, you know, he was a young gun at the time, you know, and he's won on almost every level. And he's a big fan of, to return back to your older point, would really like to own a junior team one day. It's one of his goals.
Oh,
yeah, him,
I didn't
Tyler
know that.
Seguin.
I loved during the pregame ceremony on how he looked over and he was thanking everybody. And he goes, yeah, Edmonton. Yeah, thank you, Edmonton. I know it sucks to sit here. To have to listen to all the great stuff. It was one of the greats of the game that will go down.
Hall of Famer in my mind.
Yeah.
First time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if he'll get. It's always tough depending who's up the years that you're eligible, right?
My vote goes first time.
Yeah.
Speaking of potential future Hall of Famers, you've got his jersey in the back, I believe, unless I'm mistaken the numbers. Is Sidney Crosby got his 50th or 500th goal. 50th against Philadelphia Flyers, of course, you know, and, you know, there's another man going to the Hall of Fame right away and potentially could be on people's Mount Rushmore for greatest of all times, because really, if you look at his resume, it's insane for Sid the Kid.
It's and you know, actually it was interesting. If you guys go on all your pages and find all your fan mail and you read all the comments, you got all these people there because Ovi's so many more goals ahead and people are back and forth. You know, as much as I'm reading that and you're kind of thinking and you got these thoughts and I want to comment, I'm like, isn't this exciting? That's what makes hockey so exciting, is that you can have such a different opinion and still believe you're right.
100%.
And who cares, man? Who cares? Oh, yeah. It's competition. You know,
and what I love most is that we get to still see these players perform at elite levels, even when there's so many young prospects coming into the game, young rookies who are performing well. You still see the Crosbys, you know, you still see the Dowdys, you know. Jonathan Toews has fallen off a little bit because of injury, but he's still able to perform. He's still an elite player. Chris Letang, Malkin, Ovechkin. These guys at their age, usually you think, oh, they're going to drop off.
Exactly.
They keep going.
Okay, so we wanted to talk about the Olympics. Now we got a gold medal game. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Yes. But I want to segue through what we just talked about with some of these players. Ovechkin, Doughty, Crosby. They missed this opportunity because the NHL would not shut down during COVID to send them to Beijing. So we got that. They're doing makeup games. They did whatever. They made their choice. Yeah. Everyone was talking. For example, Team Canada. You know, you have now the ability to see Crosby and McKinnon and McDavid and Huberdeau and all these players. Yeah. Now, Crosby is already 34 years old, 35 with Ovechkin. Ovechkin, you're missing out on some of the best Russian players. There are so many, especially top end forwards and goalies, some great defensemen. But okay, so here is my thing, though, is there is talk the World Cup of Hockey could be back in 2 years. So it's going to be in between. Now, with the World Cup of Hockey, what's the chance? Will we get one last chance to see players like Crosby and Ovechkin and Doughty play one more time in the World Cup of Hockey? Or do you think that there's going to be too many young players that are going to unseat them?
Yes and no. So I think there will, I mean, depending, barring injury, and you look at any of those, even Ryan Getzlaf, like those guys look like they found the fountain of youth. Like keep playing, and it looks like they just started in the NHL and they're rocking it, right? And they're putting up numbers. You know, they have contracts. I think out of all of them, Ovechkin just signed one last summer for 5 years, so he's going to keep playing, and it looks like nothing's going to stop Ovechkin. He's rarely been derailed by injury, right? We thought, this year, he's already at 30 goals. I think it'll happen. The only caveat I think they're going to try to include, like they did before, is have a Team North America or under 23 years of age. So have a rookie team again versus Team Canada. Will that work or not? I don't know. Yeah. And I think you're going to always take the best players. And how can you not take away a Sidney Crosby, even if you were to play at that point in his career on the third line center? Yeah, why not? Patrice Bergeron, you know, I know he's on his last year of his contract. Will he be signed with Boston? Most likely. You know, goaltending is a little bit different than players. I think you can condition yourself. And it's not like a lot of these guys are competing for the Iron Man streak. You know, that goes out to, you know, Keith Yandel. Props to him for getting that. You know, taking over Doug Jarvis for that record. And, of course, Phil Kessel nearby. Yeah, but I think, honestly, the more gas they have in their tank, and like Peter Forsberg back in the day, you have to drag him off the ice. Look at Joe Thornton still playing. Patrick Marleau, unfortunately, didn't play this season, but he was playing, and he was still playing solid.
Jaromir Jagr. I mean, you just did a tribute to him on our Facebook page and mentioned with his birthday. How old is he?
50.
And he is 6th in points on his team, his own team he owns in Czech Republic. And by the way, if you're not sure and you've never heard about it, but Jaromir Jagr has a lot of sponsors for his team, and they require he plays in the games to get that money. So there's a reason as a team that he's still suiting up. But I mean, some of these players are fat. Like, I mean, Jagr could still play a fourth line at 50 years old, man. I mean, amazing.
He's got a great flow, and I mean, you can't go wrong with the Jagr. I mean, that back-to-back with Mario Lemieux, that photo with the Stanley Cup, it's a beauty. It's one for the ages. If you haven't seen it, check it out online.
Okay, Pavel, so just so you guys all know, if you're new to our show, we always call ourselves Two Guys in Hockey Talk, and we said we should have been called Two Guys in Overtime because we always go overtime. Oh my God. But I forgot to start our clock, so I don't even know where we're at. So, guys, bear with us here tonight, but we're going to try and get through some of this main stuff. I'm assuming we're about 15 minutes in. We'll see how good I am when we get to the end of this and see where our time's at. Anyway, we want to quickly talk about the Olympics. Tonight, women are playing tonight. Now, this league around the world right now has been dominated by the United States and Canada when it comes to women's hockey. So we'll talk about this game coming up right away. Nothing's going to change much. I'm tired of hearing all this other stuff, but nothing changes till you start investing money into the development in your country, and that means pro leagues. We need professional leagues in other countries. And even if they're like a semi-pro, if you know there's not lots of money coming in, long as they can actually make a living playing hockey, you will get better development for the women's programs. And I will give the U.S. that. I mean, for many years, Canada literally walked away with the women's quality in hockey. And the U.S. has picked it up by doing what? Investing in hockey.
Yeah. And I think the countries that invest in men's hockey also need to invest in women's hockey. because you already have the infrastructure in place. You already have the desire, the talent, and the want for it. You know, it's not like Russia's going to stop loving hockey, or Sweden or Finland. So why not pursue more women in that sport to participate and being active? Like, I don't understand. You could use the same rinks, or it provides more income and revenue for new buildings to entice more people to come watch. Because what if there's young ladies and young women everywhere who want to watch a female athlete perform on the ice, right? And maybe they don't get the same excitement as they do from men's hockey. Why not have that option, right?
Well,
we need it.
So if Patrick Conway, one of our writers and one of our guests that come on the show for us at Two Guys in Hockey Talk, Patrick Conway, Russian writer for sports. I don't know if we got him back right much right now. You can comment if you're in the comment section or following us right now, Patrick. But I believe when we had our conversation, he talked about it. I didn't even know this. The Russian Hockey League, the KHL, it sponsors women's league. So they have their own women. So each one of the teams has a sponsorship over there. That's one place I could see definitely doing that. You know, man, you don't mess with Russian women.
No.
No. They'll knock your sock off, and then they'll hit you with the puck.
We're excited to watch the game tonight after the podcast. We're hoping to. I mean, we're always homeboys, so Team Canada is our thing, but it should be an exciting game. I've enjoyed watching them play. Team Canada just kind of go through the qualifiers, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and now to emerge. But we've got a bit of an upset in the men's, and it looks like neither Canada nor US are in.
Yeah.
Complete opposite.
So was I right or was I right? We're only one win away for Russia to be in the final.
Yes, but they do have to go against Sweden, and they have a pretty solid defensive lineup right now for Team Sweden. So it's definitely going to be interesting, and then I really want to kind of cheer on for Slovakia because they are real underdogs, right?
Yeah.
To play, but we'll see what takes place. And they're going to be playing, I believe, Finland, if I recall, in the semifinals.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm hoping for a Russia-Finland final. That's my prediction. I'm going with it, and Russia will take it home, just like Revenev predicted from the very beginning, that if the NHL drops out, Russia will win the Olympic gold medal. And that will make people happy in government in Russia.
I got Sweden because I think they can really put on a show. But I'm going to say this to all the men's team there, specifically Team Canada and US. Maybe you should take some tips from the women's team on how to get to the finals, because clearly they're more competitive and can score. No offense.
No offense. Oh, I like it. No offense, no offense. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that.
There you go.
All right. Well, man, hopefully you're taking part of that. So, hey, there's been a lot of changes going on in the NHL. We wanted to talk about that. Give us some updates and some changes that have been happening all around the NHL this year.
Well, there's some coaching changes that have been happening. There's been quite a few in the last little bit. I believe it's been 7 or 8 coaches that have been let go by clubs. We've had the Bruce Boudreau one in Vancouver. Alan Vigneault out in Philadelphia, of course, let go, and then Mike Yeo taking in because he was an assistant coach. Yep. Edmonton had Jay Woodcroft, and that team's been flying pretty well, 3-0, and you could definitely tell a bit of a difference. And there's some other teams looking at potential changes. Some are in a good spot, some aren't. There's rumblings in Philadelphia that either John Tortorella or Rick Tocchet potentially could be at the helm of the bench next year for the Philadelphia Flyers in the new season. Will that work out? What is our friend?
Jamie.
Jamie. Think of that as what's it called? As a thing. Jamie Basco. My mind. I know nothing.
Sorry,
right?
Jamie. If you're following our show, you're probably not. You're too busy actually trying to look for a new coach for the team and answer what is wrong, which we'll come to that in a little bit.
But so there's been some changes, and it definitely you always see a bump up, as well as Montreal with Martin St. Louis coming up. And I think Martin St. Louis was a lot of it was to help Cole Caulfield, similar player style, although Martin St. Louis had a great electrifying career and, as a little guy, but with big calves, that was always the joke. He had really big calves. He was able to compete and play at a level, and especially at an earlier time in the 90s where it wasn't common for a shorter player of that stature to be able to compete and be as physical and as impactful in the game. So, Cole Caulfield coming into the game, trying to learn the ropes. It's only his second season officially. Last year, he was dynamite in the playoff run. This year, he struggled a little bit, but brought in. So there's been some coaching changes. What are your thoughts, Evan? Because you've talked about this before. I know you wanted to rave.
Yeah, okay, guys. So full rant. We say each week you're going to get a full rant from one or both of us. So I wanted to do a full rant on this coaching issue. I mentioned it on my Twitter. By the way, you can follow me at Revenev on Twitter. You can also follow my partner here on our tag. I believe it's at Hockey Talk.
Yeah, Hockey _ Talk. Hockey 2.
So there you go. Hockey _2. You can follow my brother here, my co-host, and then just for fun, just unfollow him again.
Yeah,
it works. It works good.
I'm very bored.
And so, or you can follow him on Instagram, where all he does is post pictures of his cats. Hence why. By the way, somebody asked me. They go, "Well, why do you call him the cat?" And they said, "Well, it's because he likes to post pictures of his cats on Instagram."
Well, actually, no. So I have a different nickname from friends, and it's called Paws because it's shortened for my name. But it's also Paws, as in I have cat paws.
Okay, so there we go. So now we got Paw the cat, Paws the cat. Yeah. Okay, all right.
This is gonna take on its own life.
Beard. Now it's Paws. Okay, guys. So here's my thing. I keep hearing people, especially former players, they keep saying things like, hey, the coach can't go out there and they just can't win the game. It's not the coach's fault that the players quit playing. What's the coach supposed to do? There's only so much a coach can do. Or there's only so many different styles of coaching that you can have. So we look at Edmonton this year. There was a lot of talk whether Tippett should have stayed around. They played well, then they played terrible. Then they picked it up.
Possibly an extension in the summer.
That was what was heard. And so there was the question, should they have got rid of the coaches? Was it Julian? Should they have? Should they not have? Does coaching matter? Well, obviously, you look at Vancouver. Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Look over when we had, over in the island, from Washington to the island, right? What's our coach
Barry
over
Trotz.
There? Barry Trotz. And some people said, well, that's what it takes. You got to have a coach to get you to glory land, to get to the Stanley Cup. But here's the point. Barry Trotz never did it in Nashville, but he finally did it in Washington. He's been trying to do it he's a good coach, but there is 32 teams now. It's difficult. This is what I want to say. If a coach can't help win games, why do you bother to have a coach? Come on, guys, think about this. What should they do? Coach like they're in an all-star game? Yes, a coach matters. A coach preps. They gain insights on the strengths and the weaknesses of a team, their own and the team they're playing. They develop systems so that they can help coach that new habits for players' development. It's a game. Now, this is my big thing. It's in-game coaching. Listen to this. If a team is struggling on the PP, and that, by the way, that's power play. If you're not sure, just say, what's this guy talking about P for on this Two Guys in Hockey Talk show? The PP, the power play, or the PK, the penalty kill. So if one of those is struggling, what should you do? You make in-game adjustments. So let's go back to the Edmonton Oilers. What was not happening with Tippett is they have a fabulous power play. Everyone figures it out. In-game coaching, you need to change what you're doing. They're still having a struggle, but because they're struggling now with their new coach, only 3 games in, we won't get overexcited. But you know what I'm seeing? In-game coaching. You know what we're seeing here with St. Louis? In-game coaching.
Yep.
Listen, you have a different view, a different voice, a different personality. And if a coach cannot in-game, by the way, that's line matching. That's when to pull your goalie or not. You don't pull your goalie 4 minutes out when you're only down by a goal, by the way.
Well,
some coach
that's becoming a bit of a trend now because you're seeing it happen more often. You may not agree, but it's happening more often in the NHL where
I don't agree because
left,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Show me some.
We'd have to look up the stats. We'd have to look up the stats.
Someone look it up.
I can't.
Yeah, someone ran back with me. Yeah, that's a little harder one to follow up. So anyway, listen, coaching matters. And if you don't think a coach matters, then just get rid of the flipping coach and then just go with a captain to make the decisions in the game. Come on. Coaching matters.
Didn't the New York Rangers last season, or was it? No, it was last season. They played without their coach, David Quinn, who he's no longer there. He got let go, but he got COVID. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the staff got COVID, like the assistant coaching staff. So it was just the trainers and the players. And they ended up winning that game, even though the Rangers were on a bit of a losing streak then. So it was entertaining to see that we don't need a coach. We can outplay this team. I agree with you. It's true what you're saying. Coaches do matter, and coaches don't teach skill, right? They can refine things. They are leaders. They don't the way we talk about leadership here is that leaders guide you. They help you find a better way of being more efficient at what your skills are. You're not teaching Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Jonathan Huberdeau, Austin Matthews new skills. You're not teaching Nathan McKinnon or Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby is an elite player. But what does Mike Sullivan do for Pittsburgh? He rolls the lines properly. He looks at who has what skill, and he makes that team better.
Yes.
Pittsburgh, everyone keeps saying Pittsburgh should fall off, and yet they're one of the best teams in the Metro.
Wow.
Why? Because they know, and they go through injuries like no other. They didn't have Malkin, Crosby, Gensel for a little bit. They didn't have their goalie. Jeff Carter was out. It's a revolving door, and yet he knows how to coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And so here's something that people need to kind of get a check on with coaching. So looking at your matchup. So if you're not as familiar with the terminology, I know a lot of people, especially if you're on the ASAP Sports Network, a lot of you are football fans. A lot of people in Canada, you guys are football fans. So you understand, when we're talking about, your front four, your middle five, and your back two or three, or depending on your teams. In hockey, you got your 5 players. And generally we refer things. So if from your defense out, let's just call it your 2. And then you move with a 1 and a 2. So it would be called a 2-1-2. So if you have a 2-1-2, you send 2 forecheckers in with one guy keeping drop back so that if those 2 forecheckers come in and they mess up the play and you get a breakout from the defensive team, you still got that third guy playing back plus those 2 D guys. Now they can interswap positions, but when you have a team, now this was one of the things that was happening. I'm just going to come back to the Oilers with the change and what we're seeing with Jay Woodcroft. Jay Woodcroft is implementing a 2-1-2. Or sometimes it will be a 3-1-1. Also, depending on the team and the adjustments. I saw in last night's game, there was an adjustment made. Here's the thing. If all 3 guys, if you're playing more like a 1-1-3 or something, where you have one guy hanging back defensive, one guy pressing, and 3 forwards going in, or 3 players, you lose those 3 players, you are already going to get outshot 2-1, 3-1. By the way, if you're a rec league player, you played in rec league a lot, especially on ice there in rec leagues, you'll notice that maybe inline is the same. Let me know if you do inline. Ball hockey, it happens as well. Lots. They like to cherry pick, we call it. Well, cherry picking is sending them on. Now, if your team has incredible goaltending, you can let your goaltender hang out to dry because he's so good. He'll make up for your mistakes. So that happens. But that's a coaching piece. Yeah. You got to know how to play the game, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you also have to balance. No, 100%. You also have to balance time on ice. Apart from a goalie who has to play the full 60 minutes, players get tired going back and forth, and you don't want to drain your top players, or you don't want to see your top players overwork. you want to be able to complete. What was the complaint in Toronto a few years back when Mike Babcock was there? Well, he wasn't playing Matthews and Marner enough. So what did Sheldon Keefe do when he came in? He started increasing their responsibility. Granted, they got better. They learned how to play in their own zone defensively, but they are still putting up unreal points. And because of that, they are now contributing. And of course, each coach has their own style, and we don't want to take away from any coach because they got to the NHL unlike us, and we're able to take these elite stars and help them. But they're not teaching them skills. They're managing their assets. And that is what it is. Plus, the other thing that you have to remember is as a GM or as an owner, what's easier to do? Get rid of 15 guys on your team or the roster, or get rid of one coach and change up the dynamic? Of course, it's going to be easier to get rid of one guy. As much as you don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, and we respect what Dave Tippett did. We respect what all coaches did. Travis Green, right? We know that they do a good job and they get to that level, but sometimes it's just not a good fit, and that's perfectly okay.
Exactly. Well, we're going to skip and change to another topic. If you're following us for the first time, you're going to see sometimes we'll stay forever on a topic, and other times we go bang, bang, bang. In fact, my co-host here has got upset at me in some shows when I make him move to a new topic, and he's still not finished talking about what he wants to talk about.
You just upset me all the time. It doesn't matter if it's hockey related or not. By the way, I have my Superman bobblehead here that I got as a gift from Evan and some former colleagues, so thank you. I wish I liked this ripped in real life, but I would have to cut back on bread and some beers.
Well, that's your Superman bobblehead that represents you coming to the rescue for us on Two Guys in Hockey Talk week after week after week. And I just like to say, I got my little Connor McDavid little figure here that was given to me before we began our podcast. And I think it meant so much to me that I decided to start a show with my co-host here, Pavel the Cat. All right, man.
Cheers to that.
Well, let's get into our last little piece here before we run out of time. The trade deadline is still weeks away. Some of the teams most likely to see movement: Seattle, Vancouver, Montreal's already got started, Arizona. I'm going to let you highlight a few things that have happened, but I want to mention there was a rumor that's been going around about potentially Marc-Andre Fleury, MAF, going back to Vegas. And I'll tell you how this started, everyone. Leonard is potentially hurt, and so they're going to be forced to get some help between the pipes. Now, this is what's interesting, is the options are limited out there, as already folks in Edmonton already know. And even though it was reported that that Marc-Andre Fleury, McKinnon went on air, he made sure everybody know Marc-Andre Fleury's not going back. But they're looking at guys like Georgiev if the Blue Shirts are going to be able to remove him. This is what I think. I think this is what's going to matter. Does Colorado make a move and not stay with Darcy Kemper and look for someone like Marc-Andre Fleury, which opens up Darcy Kemper to go somewhere else? This could be some big movements at the trade deadline.
Well, he just got a shutout against the Dallas Stars recently, I think on Monday or Tuesday night when they played. So,
but is he going to help?
Kemper can play when he's healthy. Right?
But is Zach going, number one, healthy? And the second thing is he going to help you win in the playoffs? When you have someone that can help you win, they need to make some big decisions. They got big cap spaces next year that are going to become much of nothing. They're going to have a hard time to even sign guys like Kadri. Okay, so give a couple updates. What's been happening this week? And
it looks like we had our first big trade, because there's been some minor little ones, but the first one is Tyler Toffoli coming over from the Montreal Canadiens to the Calgary Flames and scoring in his debut game. To mention playing with his former colleague and player Milan Lucic when they played together in LA. And of course, he was coached by Daryl Sutter and ended up winning Stanley Cups with him, as well as we talked earlier on the show, Drew Doughty. So it's been great. Calgary's been rolling. Props to them. I think they've won 7 in a row. They're firing on cylinders. Jacob Markstrom is having an unreal Vezina-like trophy season. And the other way goes the first round pick, a 5th round pick, Hyman Island, Hymanen, and Tyler Pitlick back to Montreal. So I think both teams kind of win in this trade because Montreal gets what they need. They get some draft picks. I think they got to stock up because they don't have as many as Arizona does. Wow. And Arizona really wants that pick. But, I think this benefits both teams. We all know Montreal is going to be in a rebuild, and Calgary's going for it.
This is interesting, just so you know, because of the draft picks and stuff. I remember the draft year. It was the same year as Taylor Hall. It was in 2010, the NHL entry draft. Toffoli, everyone expected him to be a first-round pick, and he ended up going 47th overall. So it was considered a steal by people. He didn't fully develop right away. But he was the 7th overall to Ottawa 67s in the junior draft. So people need to, if you're in Calgary right now, you're skipping around the city or around wherever you are, excited about the Flames opportunity. That's probably one of the biggest improvements. And their first round pick is going to probably be like a 20 to 32 top pick maximum. And I don't care what people say. I know they keep talking about deep drafts. I do not think this year is a deep draft like people are saying. I just do not think that. And I think that that's why they decided to go ahead and take a shot and say, let's make this happen this year.
Interesting. We'll have to get your more thoughts on that, on why the draft is what it is, and get your top 15 soon. And then the other rumor, because the trades are still coming in and there's a lot of speculation and rumors, is that potentially Claude Giroux is on the move, the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers. And, he's been a consistent player. He's been elite. He's been to the finals. I believe it was 2010, when they lost to Chicago. And will he get a chance to win a cup like he wanted to, like Ray Bourque did back in the day when he just couldn't break over the hump? Could he add that extra push for Colorado? And Colorado currently, yes, they do have cap space. Next year will be a little trickier, but he could always return, right? Nick Foligno left Columbus, and then I know he went over to I believe it was Boston. But sometimes players return after they've been somewhere else. So we'll see what's happening, and we'll see where things go.
He's really quiet, and he's really quiet on this front too. Giroux's not saying a lot.
Yeah. He did indicate there's been some rumblings because he was at the All-Star game. He was the captain there, that he potentially wanted to go to the Central somewhere, Colorado, Minnesota, who's also been playing well, or St. Louis.
Yes.
That's his kind of preference.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if maybe a team like Florida or Tampa Bay make a push for it, right? So Sean Fire can fill us in, or anyone else in the Florida region.
I do not think that either Florida team can actually be able to absorb the dollar amount at the trade deadline. I just don't think so.
What if it's a trade?
And by the way, so here's the thing with Florida. Florida is in the market for a top 4 defenseman. So they're going to be trying to find Jacob Chikrin or John Klingberg, or maybe they're going to go for a Sherrod out of Montreal. They're going to be trying to focus on that defense more than they need that offense. So I just can't see Florida having anything left over, even if they were able to find a way to make it.
Well, they said Owen Tippett is on the trading block, so he would be one of the picks, because when they were discussing a potential trade with Jacob Chikrin with Arizona, he was one of the prospect players that would go over, even though he's played a bit.
But there's barely anything leaving for salary to bring back that much salary, because I believe he's in the top 7 range, right, of $7 million.
So expect more teams that have a lot of cap space, like a Seattle, like an Arizona. Right. To maybe take on and do a 3-way trade. So maybe you throw in a pick there.
Florida,
that was
another
all
team
trade with
pick.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense. Well, hey, speaking of the Flyers are 4-8-1 in their last 13 games. As you said, our good friend and former guest Jamie Basco. I'm following you on Twitter, Jamie, and I'm like, it's blowing your brains. You believed in the team. You thought someone and you kept with the fans, and you were hoping. And I see your frustration. I'm going to give some stats, and then Pavel's going to talk a bit about this. They have allowed at least 3 goals. I just pulled some stuff up here to give you guys 3 goals in 12 of those 13 games. And at least they've allowed at least 3 goals in 12 of those 13 games, and at least 4 goals in 9 of those games. They have a .346 percentage in March, which is 28th in the NHL. They average 4.38 goals against per game, which is dead last. And by the way, they have Carter Hart. And believe it or not, many experts will tell you Carter Hart is not the problem. No. Some people are going to be saying that. Imagine what his save percentage if he wasn't having all these breakaways and 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s or 3-on-2s constantly. So what's wrong in Philly? They have free agents to sign. They've lost several of their prospects in the last trades. Where did they go?
I don't know. And they lost their GM, Ron Hextall, who was trying to build up their cabinet of picks and prospects.
Back in the day,
of course, yeah. And, Chuck Fletcher took over. There's a whole myriad of things wrong with Philadelphia Flyers. It's not just coaching. It does influence, and nothing to take away from Mike Yeo. He's trying the best he can. Injuries is a big one. They traded for Ryan Ellis. They gave up a premium price for that. And he hasn't exactly done what he could. He's been injured. I think he's only played like 4 to 6 games for them.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be your top 4 defenseman. And any other team, you're going to have to suffer, especially if you don't have somebody up and coming who can step up and play. The other person they got rid of is Shane Gostisbehere, who now is in Arizona and is having a solid season, albeit their team isn't doing that well. And they brought in Ristolainen as well, paid a pretty big price for him. And, he's been okay. He hasn't been the best. So their back end hasn't exactly been good. Now their front, and more so their middle, their guys haven't been performing. And I believe it is Couturier, I believe it is now. I have to double check. You guys can correct me. That has back injuries that has set him out for the rest of the remainder of the season. So he's done now, and he can't even play. So you're weak in the middle. Kevin Hayes started the season late due to the death of his brother. That was a big thing. Yeah. So you're not even starting on time properly. Carter Hart is not the issue. And honestly, it's a defensive game, and that is the problem with the Philadelphia Flyers. That is what I think is a big problem. And otherwise, what else can you do, right? They had some scoring, but they just can't keep it out of their own net. And Carter Hart, for all the talk that was around him, he is a good goalie, but he's not at that level that we're expecting him to be yet. He will get there.
He's not Dominic Hasek where he can save everything in spite of the players in front of him. Listen, Chuck Fletcher, the general manager of the team, he says they are not looking at selling right now. So if you guys in Philly, you're a fan of the Flyers, you might be saying, well, maybe let's start trading and getting, giving some stuff away here. They're not looking at selling, he said. And this is what he said in his calls with other managers. And I made sure I wrote it down here so I could be able to say it specifically. He says, it's been quiet in terms of receiving calls. He says, but I've made many and I've been much more aggressive. And I actually believe, and I think that a lot of people are just really looking at different options, just like Fletcher is saying, because there's a lot of teams out there that are now willing to take on dollars and term at this point in time. But unfortunately, there's more teams trying to move pieces for whatever the reasons are, and that's going to make this complicated. So I think the best wheeler and dealers are going to be showing their faces, and if Fletcher can get out of this, I would be shocked.
Yeah, and it is Sean Couturier who's injured out with a back injury for the remainder of the season. So that's one of your top 2 centers. What are you going to do now, right? Between him and Kevin Hayes.
That's crazy. Well, bro.
And they finally broken the streak where they make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs, they make the playoffs. So I thought this year they should have made the playoffs because last year they didn't. And that trend has changed because in the last decade it was always maybe the even numbers they made the playoffs for the year, odd numbers they didn't. It's a very weird fun stat.
Maybe they play 800 hockey the rest of the way. You never know. Never say never. Well,
there was a recent fight in the Montreal Canadiens practice, side note, where Romanoff and one of their other guys got in a scrum. And we all know how that St. Louis game went when Robert Bortuzzo got in a fight with one of the other guys, and then they ended up going to the Stanley Cup. So Montreal or anybody who's at the bottom of the standings, start getting fights at practice, and then you're going to make it.
Oh, man. Well, we've run to the end of the time on our show here today, Pavel. It's been a pleasant conversation again. I really want to say welcome to all our new followers here tonight on the ASAP Sports Network. Great to be with you. Great to be with the ASAP Sports family. And I look forward to a lot of other stuff. If you are football, MMA, arena football, any of those other sports, take a look all through the ASAP area. If you follow us directly on our pages and you want to look into other sports, they have a whole bunch of stuff also right there. And we have the links just right down in our comment section on our regular pages.
But we all know we're your favorite and number one. So make sure that you don't betray us. We may have an open relationship, but we're first.
That means we expect, even if you're a football fan, you will watch Two Guys in Hockey Talk as your number one priority.
100%.
Well, man, guys, so remember to like, follow, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on ASAP and all their different mediums that they send out, including on the Roku channel. Well, anything last moment that you want to share with our fans that's witty or smart or
Witty or smart? Well, Patrick Laine is on a 7-game point streak, so good for him. He's been rocking it out in Columbus, and we got to give love to Columbus Blue Jackets because that team is playing hard. They're not where they're expected to be, but I like sometimes watching some of their games, especially when they play the Tampa Bay or Florida Panthers, because those are fun games.
Well, I have to say I am pleasantly surprised, Pavel the Cat, that you pulled that stat out for knowing absolutely nothing about hockey.
Zero. Exactly.
Well, in the meantime and in between time, on behalf of Two Guys in Hockey Talk,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good night.
Cheers.